thanks for coming back on, dude. I do not do a lot of repeat guests for whatever reasons. For whatever reason, I should say. But you got lost in my algorithm for quite some time, but you've now started popping up again. And I don't know how that happens. It's just bullshit Instagram stuff. But you always show me love. I try to show you as much love as possible. You're one of my honestly favorite follows because of your positivity. And you're kind of like an in the shadows guy, which maybe you don't think that you are. I personally classify you as kind of an in the shadows, behind the scenes guy that does a lot of working and not a whole lot of yapping. And I really fucking appreciate those types of guys. So we did episode 47, August of 22, and now we're back, dude. So thanks for coming back.
No, dude, I appreciate it. I appreciate everything you just said. That's a lot for me to unpack, you know? It's so as far as the Instagram thing, I had buddies that even though they followed me, I got to the point where I obviously had said some not favorable things regarding the meta algorithm and things like that. And it had gotten to the point where people that had already followed me had to type in my full handle all the way down to the G in Coffee Viking before it would actually pop me up. And so I had to do some digging and try to figure out what was going on there, slowly getting that resolved. But no, man, it's been a blast. Just going on 3 years now. I think both you and myself have done a tremendous amount of growing. Seeing you rebrand yourself, seeing you really lean heavy into the performance side of things. It's been really cool to see from my standpoint. I love it when I meet friends and then I also get to watch. This is the benefit of social media, I feel like, is I also get to watch them grow and develop as an individual, even though you and I are thousands of miles away. You know, back in the day, we would have never met back in the day, you know? And then as far as working in the shadows, I do really appreciate that. And I definitely take that as a compliment just because I do, to a fault sometimes, I do feel like I have my hands in a lot of different cookie jars. I love it, but I also understand that there's a balancing act to, you know, giving 100% at every single one of those things. But yeah, I'm totally fine with being the guy, you know, behind the scenes making things happen. I like being in the limelight just as much as anybody else. But I've told multiple friends, and I've also told my brother, like, when I go, I want to be known as the guy that put good people together. Whether it's making introductions, I was just in Iowa for the Iowa Deer Classic, and two guys that had chatted on social media had never met before. They are top creatives in the archery space, but they had never met in person. Well, I convinced one of them to drive 3 hours out because the other one was there, and I saw him, dapped him up, said, "Hey, follow me," grabbed him and walked him right to the guy, made the introduction. I said, "You guys have at it," and I went back to work. And I love those types of introductions and putting people together and things like that.
Does that fill your cup?
Oh, 100%, dude. That's like, especially when it's putting good people together in a similar space, or like what really fills my cup for me is putting people together who I know are then going to create something badass. Like that's really cool. Not because of any sort of like, I take credit for making this happen. That's not what it's about. It's just, I know this guy does good work. I know this guy does good work. And I know if I put them together, it's going to be absolutely savage what they create. And I've seen that happen in real time on multiple occasions. And that's been awesome.
Yeah. It's fun. You kind of get to take, and I know you don't do it for this, but you kind of get to take a little piece of credit for that too. It's like, man, if it wasn't for me, those guys would have never left. And that fills my cup up too.
Yeah, there's definitely been times where I'll get to the part where whatever was meant to be created gets created, and I see it pop up on my feed, and I'm just like,
I had a small piece in that.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, no,
dude.
It's awesome, man. But like you said, that's not what I'm doing it for. I'm doing it because the world needs more good people. And if I can connect good people with good people, good shit's going to happen. And so that's why I do it.
Yeah. And it's very obvious. Like I see a lot of me in you when you get on a story. Dude, you don't give two shits what somebody thinks of you. I already know. I already
And
know
that
that.
might be the biggest compliment you could give me,
Mm-hmm.
honestly.
Mm-hmm. I put a thing up on my story this morning when I pretty much said that. My wife hits me right away. She's like, "Who pissed you off this morning?" I was like,
Yeah.
"Nobody." I was like, "Not a darn person did." I'm
Yep.
just fired up, ready to have a good Monday.
That's right. That's right. And it's
Yeah.
one of those things too. If I see that out in the wild, I'll hit my buddies up. I may have done it a couple of times to you over the years too, where I'm just like, man, you woke up and chose violence today.
You said
Like
that to
that.
me before.
Yeah, I'm like, that gets me fired up. I'm
I
like,
got time
it's
today.
going to be a good day when the people that should be speaking their mind are speaking their mind.
Yes. Yeah. And what I also love is how positive you are, man. Have you always been like that? Like that is something that people want. They want to be more positive. They want to look at it half full opposed to half empty. Ever since I started following you years ago and we did that pod and we've kind of stayed in touch a little bit here and there, exchange kind messages. Anytime you get on a story, a post, promoting a product, whatever it is, like you're beaming, and that sounds so gay to say, but it's true. Like you're like just on fire. You're just uber positive, and I fucking love that. I hate
Yeah.
people that complain. I hate people that are freaking why me, this, that, and the third. I can't stand it. So whenever a post comes up from you, I take the time and watch it. Have you always been like that?
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. It's one of those things where like that is a direct byproduct of having a great father in my life. So my dad he was the type, or is, he's still around, thankfully. But he's the type that, excuse me, he's the type that he never sugarcoated anything for me. Even I still remember, even as early as, 8, 9, 10, 11 years old. And I may have brushed on this the last time we chatted, but it was always like, hey, listen, you're never going to be the biggest, the fastest, the strongest. So you're going to have to outwork everybody. Well, as a byproduct of that, he also instilled, you're never going to be the biggest, fastest, or strongest, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't try. That doesn't mean you shouldn't keep going. And then that also tapered into, every day we wake up, you have a choice. You can be miserable. You can be pissed off at the world. You can curse all of the bad things that have happened in your life up to this point, or you can be thankful and you can show gratitude and you can be happy that you have a roof over your head and you have meals and you have friends. And, for the most part, we have our health and, we've got family or people that care about us and things like that. And then it's also up. He kind of put it like this. It's like, it's up to us to make people's day a little bit better. A simple hello on the street, a simple, hey, whatever clothing article you're wearing is cool. Things along those lines. And it's gotten to the point, I'm glad you bring up like, when you see it on social media from me, you stop and watch. I actually have multiple friends, that after we become friends, they then tell me, hey, when I first followed you or when I first heard about you, I thought you were the fakest dude on the internet. Like, there's no way this guy has that energy, has that positivity all the time. And to be honest, there are some days where I'm not as positive as I want to be, or like, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. It's never
You're
going to be.
human, dude.
Do what?
You're human, brother.
Yeah, yeah. But I also understand that if I'm doom and gloom walking around, someone opening the door, I brush past them or I, give them a stare or something like that, that could potentially ruin their entire day and have a ripple or domino effect. The adverse is true, which is what I lean into. Prime example, back in the day, my business partner in the coffee company that I co-own, we cut our teeth on farmers markets. There was one particular instance where it was an older lady was wearing leggings, but these were these Galaxy, really high quality, like full outer space leggings. And me being me, if I see something I like, I'm going to compliment, whether it be your wild rag, whether it be a hat, whether it be her leggings, just very plain, like, oh, those are dope leggings. What can I get you coffee wise? And their jaws drop because they're like, dude, you can't just say that. And I'm like, yeah, I can if I'm just being genuine and I like a shirt or I like a hairstyle or I like a beard. I'm going to do that. And then going to the ripple effect of things, she not only got good coffee, she got good service, she got a compliment. She now might go home and just as a byproduct might decide, you know what, it's a great day. Let's take the kids out to the park. And now that positivity runs off. You were talking about filling your cup. I filled her cup so that then she can fill other people's cups because she's now having a better day. Dude, I'm constantly thinking about that stuff. Like, I can impact one person in a positive way that then could send 5 ripples out into the ether. You know, and then that's a whole nother thing about, you know, the universe being tied in together and energies and stuff like that, you know, I don't dive into and lose my mind over, but it tends to happen that if you're positive or you try to be positive and you hope good things happen to people, good stuff also reciprocates back to you. So yeah, that's kind of why I do what I do, man.
People might struggle with that concept too because they don't see that return. Everybody wants a return nowadays, where you put a little, correct. You put a little bit of effort into giving old girl a compliment, give her some great coffee, wished her a great day. You didn't have to do that, but you did, and you don't know if she's going to go on to continue to have a great day or not. But if she does, that's great. That's fantastic. Yeah. There's nothing in it for you by doing that is what I'm saying. So people, I believe, could potentially struggle with kind of taking that route, knowing that they don't know what happens after that. And that's okay. Yeah.
Well,
you're not supposed to know.
And that actually, now we're getting into pieces that I actually took from Andy Frisella. He did a podcast. This may have been back in 2020, 2021, something like that. He, you know, even with all the positivity and stuff like that, I was never someone that would give spare change to homeless individuals on the side of the road, just because I was like, you know what, you know, I had that mentality. I'm like, they're probably going to use it for drugs or booze or, you know, whatever it may be. But Andy had a different perspective on that, which is, so what if they do? Going back to what you said about that's none of your concern. Your concern is what you're doing in the here and now. So I kind of took those two trains of thoughts, the positivity from my dad, and then you just got to let it be what it is after the fact from Andy. And if I put it in together, I did my job, right?
Yes.
Just for instance, arbitrary, I gave a homeless individual $5. I did my good deed. I'm not in it to record it and post it and go viral on social. I'm not in it for anything other than I saw someone in need. I helped them out with what they said they needed. Now that individual may actually go and use it on drugs or booze or whatever it is, but that's not my concern. That potential ripple after the fact has nothing to do with me. I did my part. I gave my ripple, and then I just got to let it be what it be. I got to trust in the fact and believe in the fact that hopefully that individual will use it for food or, you know, you hear a lot about homeless individuals have dogs. Maybe they use it for food for the dog or clothing or something like that. But that's none of my concern. My concern is how can I help? How can I be a light for whoever I'm dealing with at that time?
I like that. I wish I would have thought about that. I remember one specific incident, probably 2 years ago, where I go to this gas station down the road from my house that I visit frequently, and there's a homeless person outside and they're asking for money or whatever. And I had that exact same attitude. You're going to buy drugs with it? Nope. I said, I don't believe you. Come inside. I'll buy you a sandwich and a Pepsi. And I did. And I said, don't trade it for drugs. I don't know what she did after that, but it shouldn't have even mattered, right? Yeah. I could have gave her the $5 and let her, you know, do with it as she pleased, and it would have saved me time in the long run. But you, like you said, you provided the ripple. What she does after that is not your concern.
Well, and I've been in your situation too. I've done that as well. And you know what? You still provided a positive thing for that individual. There was just extra steps involved that we didn't need to concern ourselves with. And make no mistake, I'm not saying you need to give to anybody listening. I'm not saying you need to give every last dime and dollar to every person you see on the side of the road. But just seeing them on the side of the road and not knowing what they would do with your generosity should not stop you from being generous.
Yep, I agree. Dude, I know you have a lot of irons in the fire, and I love that. In terms of being a business owner, what do you love most about that?
Specifically in the industry that I'm in, which is coffee. So for those of you that, you know, weren't tuned in on the last one, I own a coffee company here in Columbus, Ohio. It's Jennings Java Coffee Roasters. It is available online. It's jenningsjava.com. And we just actually opened our cafe in October of 24. So the best part about being a business owner from that sense is for me, my biggest takeaway is the positivity aspect of it. For as little as $3, we can completely flip someone's day by a cup of coffee and a good interaction. And and on top of that, we're a morning beverage. So we're setting the entire day up for somebody else's success. So when I run our social media account. So when I see people reposting and they're in the cafe with a good book and a cup of coffee, like, I know that person's going to have a good day. When I see a post from one of my friends and they got a bag of coffee in the mail and they're like, ready to tackle the day, and they've got, the big coffee mug and the bag of coffee. And I'm like, yeah, that's the attitude. That's the type of stuff that then in turn fills my cup, like you said, on the back end. So just having the ability to change someone's day, month, year, life in a positive manner, that's the best part about being a business owner.
Yeah. Okay. And you're in Columbus.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to hit you up this summer. We usually get back home a little bit. Come connect and get a cup of coffee from you.
Yeah, dude, I've got some, but because the next outdoor trade show is here in Ohio at the Ohio Open Season Expo, I've got a bunch of buddies that are in the industry or on social or creating content or things like that. And they're like, hey man, I'm going to be in town. I'm hoping to swing by. So I'm kind of lining up, all the tours that I'm going to give my buddies.
Yeah, I like that.
But yeah, I'd love to look up.
Good. Yeah, me too. We will too. You have gotten in some really, really good shape since the last time we talked. I don't know if that was kind of the beginning of you really freaking getting into it. I know you did a 75 hard. I think you've done a couple of them. But over the past 2 or 3 years, you know what I do, obviously. I've really noticed a huge change in just kind of the way you think, your body comp. What are some things on a day-to-day basis that you're doing that are repeatable that have, helped you progress? Because everybody wants a secret freaking sauce, right?
Yeah.
Everybody wants a secret. Dude, AJ, how'd you get shredded? Like, I can see your abs now. You got big old shoulders. Like, your face is looking skinnier. What do you do on a day-to-day basis repeatably that has set you up over the past, 2-3 years since we've met?
Yeah. So I'm going to throw a couple of shameless plugs in there. Number one being I take a daily multivitamin that has everything for me. It's called First Form Microfactor. I absolutely love it. It's got antioxidants, reds and greens. It's got fish oils. It's got a multivitamin. It's got CoQ10. It's got all of that. But that's like the very base level stuff. That's not, you already know this, but the secret is there's no secret. You got to put in the work. But I will say, since the two biggest things that have changed since 2022 is I've solidified my why, which is I'm now a father and I want to be as good of a father and husband as I possibly can. My job now is longevity. And so I kind of changed my thinking process from I just want to get big with no clear, like what does that mean, to now my whole purpose is longevity. What do I need to do to be around as long as possible for my family and to be in as good a shape and provide for them as best I can? Well, with that new mentality came looking into the food industry, came, breaking down the current food pyramid, which that's a whole rabbit hole for those listening. You can dive into that all yourself. The gist of it is that the current food pyramid is a scam. I went heavy into the meat side of things. I track my food as best I can. I make it a priority to do 75 hard once a year, not for the physical changes, but it's a mental reprogramming program. So that always realigns my mind, really clarifies like my goals of what I'm trying to do. And then outside of that, man, it's just putting in the work, putting in the effort. I highly, highly, highly recommend anybody that is serious about making changes, you need people that will hold you accountable, whether that be a group
Say
of
that again,
friends.
big dog. Say it again.
You need people that will hold you accountable, whether that is a group of friends, you know, people call it, you call it tribes, you call it friends, you call it groups, whatever you want, whether that be a coach that you actually hire, you pay money to. Their whole purpose, the whole reason you're paying them is to get you results. Or whether that just be individuals on the internet that you meet through social media that are going to call you out on your bullshit, you know? But you need people that if you're like, if I know for a fact, if I go online and I post, you know, 6 beers and like 6 beer cans on a table with an empty full pizza box, immediately I'm probably gonna get people asking like, hey bro,
You good?
are you okay? But it's gonna be from the sense of like, you shouldn't be doing that. And I'm not saying you need to cut everything out. Like I get the whole 80-20 rule, and you know, you can't live life restricted and yada yada yada. But the fact of the matter is there's a lot of bullshit out there that you should not be putting into your body. Whether that be supplements that you know nothing about, whether that be drugs you know nothing about, whether that be food that you know nothing about. You know, and so you need to, if you want to make changes for the better, I would almost argue that's the two biggest things is you need to do your research on fitness, health, foods, things like that. And then you also need to hire, or you don't need to hire, but you need accountability individuals in your life. If you are just surrounded, and it's an age old thing you see all over the internet. If you are around 5 drunks, you're going to be the 6th. If you're around 5 millionaires, you're going to be the 6th, or whatever the actual thing ends up being. But you are who you surround yourself with. I choose to surround myself with people who I think are fucking savages, you know? Thwack on Instagram, Jake Arvold, a lot of the First Form crew, my buddy Evan Armstrong, who owns a technically rival coffee company. We're really good friends. He's getting in with all the Sornex guys. You know, and so that's probably what the biggest changes that I've made is getting serious about my coach, getting serious about who I'm surrounding myself with, the food aspect, and then obviously, you know, my why has been solidified. The longevity piece of it is huge for me.
Do you feel like by having a why, it's a little bit easier to get out of bed opposed to being like, I'm just trying to get jacked?
Oh, 1,000%, dude. Dude, do you think I actually want my alarm clock going off at 4:30 in the morning? No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. But I also know that if I'm not getting up at 4:30 in the morning at the gym by 5, hour and a half training, setting myself up for the day, I know that having a 20-month-old at home, life gets in the way. And so if I don't prioritize myself first, we're going to get to 6 p.m., 7 p.m., putting him down for bed. And I'm going to go rot in the couch. I'm not going to the gym. And, you know, there's individuals that'll say, you know, well, that's a weak mentality. Well, no, it's a strong mentality because I know what I need to do and how I need to set my days up to make sure that I'm prioritizing myself to be the best version of myself. And unfortunately for me, that means getting up at 4:30 in the morning. That means watching what I eat. That means, you know, avoiding fried foods. That means, you know, missing out on the good stuff. You're not missing out on anything. All you're doing is cutting your life short, you know? And make no mistake, I'm not a hypocrite. I still drink beer. I still have a good whiskey collection downstairs, but I'm now doing it all with the mindset of like, okay, we're going to have one, we're going to call it a night. I personally like nightcaps of whiskey. I think it's great for winding down and things like that. But at the same time, I'm not letting it consume my life. Back in 2022, when we were talking, I was a craft beer sales rep.
I remember that. Yes.
And I loved that job until I realized that my paycheck was made better the more other individuals drank. And it really did sit well with me. It recalibrated my mind in a different way as well. Unfortunately was let go from that company in February of 24. Fortunately, was picked up by my now good buddy Cody DeQuista with Lone Wolf Custom Gear, and I now wear a lot of hats for those guys. And I'm doing stuff that I absolutely love.
I'm so excited that you brought up the fact that obviously the mornings work well for you. And you are so more apt if you skip out on that. You go throughout your day, you get home, you know, you want to play with your son, you need to feed into your wife, and then you sink into the couch. You're not going to the fucking gym, dude. If you missed your chance in the morning, that's such a hot topic right now under my umbrella with my guys. Mornings or evenings, Tyler? It's like, well, I'll just tell you a story. And I literally would just tell them exactly pretty much what you said. I'm as disciplined as it gets, man. I really am. I know that. But if I hit that snooze for that extra hour and I miss that window, and I can tell myself all day long that I'm gonna go at 6 after I get done doing what I need to do.
Yeah.
Bro, I'm not fucking going. No way. You're not going. You're not going. If I'm not going and you're not going, they ain't going. Because we're disciplined, dude. And that's just where I'm at with it, dude.
Yeah, and it's one of those things too, you know, you see all these people that are posting, you know, their rock solid routines, which is great. You know, the ice bath, the sauna, gratitude, you know, read the Bible. I love all of that stuff. But I also understand that you do need to have some backup plans with it. So for instance, right, every morning I get up, I'm like, man, or not every morning, but if I wake up and I'm like, man, I really don't want to go to the gym or whatever, I still try to go. Now, there are outside factors that would dictate me having to stick and move and make adjustments. One of those being if my son Riggs isn't sleeping through the night, if he's sick, if he, you know, somehow wakes up as I'm getting ready to walk out the door, I'm not going to leave my wife, who I know is not a morning person, hanging with a baby at 5:30 in the morning. And so in that sense, I do always still have a backup plan in the back of my mind, but it's used as a last resort. And my backup plan is still not 6, 7 p.m. at night. It's take my lunch break, and on my lunch break, I go and get it done, because then I'm still middle of the day getting work done, being productive. But that's almost like having like my fail-safe aspect to it. And I only use that on very specific circumstances, which I guess you could say comes into the discipline aspect of it. The only way I'm going to do it this way is if XYZ happens beforehand.
That's spot on, AJ, the fail safe. And it's the reason you can implement that, and the reason that works is because when you adapt, it's because those are life, like actual life things that need to be taken care of. You have a son, you have a wife, like, hey, he didn't sleep, he's sick. Wife hasn't slept at all. Let me pick up the slack a little bit for her while she can get a couple extra hours of sleep. Now you can implement the fail-safe plan. The fail-safe plan doesn't fucking work if you hit snooze just because you're a little bit tired. That's an excuse.
Bingo. And that goes back to the mentality side of things of you have to know yourself internally. You have to have those internal thoughts, and you have to be thinking about that all the time. You know, if I hit this snooze button right now, is there a reason, or am I being fucking lazy? And if I'm being fucking lazy, I'll turn and I'll put my feet on the ground, give myself a deep breath if I need to, and we gotta go. We got shit to do, because in order for me to be the best version of myself, I have to do those things so that I can then be the best version of myself for my family and the people that I need to pour into their cups.
Yes. And I think you might agree with me here. And obviously you've come up with a really great routine. You have backup plans, fail-safe plans. You know, you're able to stick and move, which is all fantastic. You've been doing that for quite some time. Same with me. But it doesn't get easier. It does not get easier. AJ and I do not enjoy when that alarm clock goes off at 4:35 a.m. It's just not fun, but it's one of those things, and we've touched on it on here before, is it's just a part of your life now. This is just what you do. It's the same thing as waking up and pouring a cup of coffee, taking a shit. You don't even think about it. You just, that's part of your day. That's what you do.
Yeah. This is what we do. And it's one of those things. I like the fact that you hit on the fact that it never gets easier. You have to come to terms with the fact that if I want real changes for whatever my why may be, I just have to do this. This is my life. I'm getting up at this time. One of the best people that I follow that does this is Will Grumke. He's one of the higher ups at First Form. He is up at 3:45 every morning, and I love it because very similar to like my social media posting, which is good for accountability for me. He's up at 3:45. He's posting the time, and then he posts his morning routine before he takes off and goes to work. And he's one of those guys that has a very strict routine. He's got a sauna, he's got a cold tub, he's got all that stuff. But he's found that that's what works for him, And so it's one of those things where like he ain't no way he's like looking forward to getting up at 3:45. Now, that being said, there's ways we can trick our minds in the short term. You and I wake up at 4:30 in the morning, we kind of smile a little bit because we know that nobody's doing that. Or very, very minimal people are doing that. I'm sure there's times where Will wakes up and he just kind of smiles and he's like, I'm the only motherfucker up right now and I'm getting to work, And there is a piece of that that's just like very prideful in that aspect.
Yes.
But that's, like I said, that's the short term. That's the blanket over the veil of, or that's the veil over top of the reality of this is just my life. This is what I do now. And so, yeah, you're exactly right. It never gets easier.
That's called an edge, in my opinion. Having a little bit of edge about you goes a long way. And I've always had one for the most part, but I had these, this is going to be hard to explain. So I used to run a crap ton, and I know you know that, and do all these dumb ultras and everything else. Long story short, I really don't pound pavement at all anymore, like pretty much at all.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, this was probably a week ago. It's getting warmer here in Montana. I was like, I'm gonna
getting nice.
I'm gonna go for a little 30-minute jog here real quick.
Yeah.
And I couldn't even do that, right? I was like, I'm gonna run 2 minutes, walk 2 minutes, and repeat that, or run 2 minutes, walk 1 minute, repeat that for 30 minutes. Yeah. And I started jogging. I go 15 minutes out and then turn around, come back to the crib. And on the way back, my mind was just like freaking racing, and I started getting all these crazy thoughts about like I should start doing this again. Like I am on fire right now. Like nobody's out here right now. I'm not seeing anybody else running. I'm like, dude, I remember why I used to do this.
Yeah.
My point is that I'm not gonna start running again, but I remembered why I did that, and because of the benefits that it would give my brain. Yeah. I was like, oh, I like this edge. Like nobody's doing this shit right now. So
well, and
you just got to find what that is for you.
Yeah. And then going back to the health and wellness side of it, not necessarily the fitness side of it, there is study after study, historical evidence of the benefit of just being outside. So you running outside has a different and better health aspect than you running on a treadmill for a half. And I'm sure you would, I mean, you've run way more than I have. I'm sure you would agree that
1,000%.
Getting out, opening your mind, smelling the fresh air, it stimulates that brain in a way that running indoors in box on a treadmill doesn't have the same effect. And so, yeah, there's so many pieces to that, but I agree 100%. That's why I have grown. So one part of 75 Hard program is the outdoor workout, 45-minute mandatory outdoor workout. I get to the point, and now I've done it so many times that I don't have like the learning curve of waiting till like week 3. I will, if I know inclement weather is coming, I will wait to do my outdoor workout in the inclement weather for that edge that you're talking about.
Yes.
Nobody else is out here. Nobody else is doing this. I still get the same mental benefits of, my brain's racing. I'm thinking about different things. What am I going to do here? What do I need to do to better myself there? And then you get that edge of the fact that nobody else is out here. I'm doing this.
Yeah. And that can look a million different ways for everybody. It's so hard to describe too. It's just that you're just fired up And
Yeah.
it doesn't last very long either. It doesn't. It's not something that's going to stick with you for like the rest of the day. Maybe the rest of the day, but like it's not going to lead into weeks and months of you being like, "Oh yeah, I'm the man." I can,
Right.
it doesn't work like that. So when you find that, you need to find a way to repeat that to keep
Yeah.
the edge, because that
Yeah.
edge
Well,
goes dull.
and it's one of those things I heard. I don't know what the actual like quote is or anything like that, but basically it is something to the effect of motivation is great to get started. Consistency is great for long-term effects. And I know I butchered that quote, but essentially it is that edge, that short-term, I'm the man. That's great to get started, but then you got to do it tomorrow. And you got
Yes.
to do it on Wednesday, and you got to do it on Thursday, and you got to do it day in, day in, day in. Then we circle all the way back to the fact that this is just what we do. This is who
Yeah.
I am now. This is what I do to be the best version of myself. And then you take solace in the fact that you're just consistent. And that's where the real changes are made.
And that's what you just said can be applied to every aspect of life. Okay. I got guys that start with me all the time and they crush the first week. Sick. Can you do it next week? Can you do it for a month? Can you do it for 6 months? Same thing with business. Man, we had a record month. That's cute. Can you do it again next month? Can you double it the month after that? Oh man, I'm doing all these great business deals. Great. Can you get another deal next week? Can you double it the week after that?
And, and,
As soon as you
and
become complacent, bro, it's
yeah,
over for you.
and the nice part about it is once you start thinking internally about that aspect of can you keep it going, you can then extend it out mentally in your mind to, oh man, we crushed January. Well, cool. Can you crush January 26th? What's January of 28 going to look like? And you can project out what you're going to do. And then you backtrack to make sure you're taking those necessary steps to get back to your goal. Everybody talks 30, 60, 90. Everybody talks 5-year plan, which ultimately I'll admit my faults in my 5 and my 10-year plans have been gray for a very, very long time. And I have not been the best husband to my wife in terms of like where we want to take our family. And, we know we want land. We know we want a bigger house. We know we want a bigger family, things like that. But that's very like basic stuff. And so I'm dialed and calculated in these other aspects of my life. I need to do my due diligence as her husband and as, the father to my son. I need to implement that and the specifics in that area of my life. And I feel like that's another piece of the puzzle is acknowledging your shortcomings and auditing yourself.
I like that. When you say all those things that you guys are looking forward to or, working towards a few years down the road or eventually, whatever it may be, does that maybe sound a little bit overwhelming to you?
Oh, definitely. 100%. And that's like, that's where my shortcomings are as an individual is very similar to if, bad stuff happens throughout the day. You just you need to just shrug your shoulders and just deal with it. Whatever happens throughout the day, it's not going to go anywhere. It's there. You can't take it back. You can't change it. So you just kind of shrug your shoulders and you move on with it and you figure it out. I need to implement that aspect into the family aspect of my life. Whereas even if it's uncomfortable, even if it's, maybe overwhelming thinking about where are we going to be in 5-10 years, that's all stuff that still needs to be done for everybody. You need to figure out what you want in where you want to be in 5 years. You need to figure out where you want to be in 10 years. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not up on a pedestal preaching this like I got it figured out because I don't. I'm telling you guys now that is a shortcoming of mine that I'm actively working on to fix. And if you're not willing to audit yourself and say, okay, this is where I'm doing wrong or I'm bad at or things like that, you're never going to actually grow as an individual, and so that's why, like my wife and I were talking, we're like, hey, we need to sit down uninterrupted, send the kid with one of the grandmas, and we need to figure out like, okay, where do we want to be in detail down to the door handles of the house we want to build, right? Because the more specific you can be with, people call it vision boards all the time. The more specific you can be with your visions or with your, what you want, the closer you're going to get to it throughout the years. So that's where I'm at with that aspect and what I can do better of as an individual.
What I believe at least works in my marriage is when, we feel, hey, we want to do this, that, and this by this amount of time. My wife gets extremely overwhelmed with when we look at things like that. That's why I asked you. So what I'll implement into all those ideas is, okay, let's just take one of them. What are 3 things that we need to do on a daily basis every freaking day in order to reach that one? And then we start implementing those.
That's awesome because you took the big, scary whole piece.
Yeah.
And you broke it down. You broke it down all the way back to just give me one day. What do we need to do day 1? What do we need to do day 2? So on and so forth to get to that big piece. And I love that. That's genius.
Do you feel in 2025, let's call it right now, do you feel like it is easy to be successful or difficult to be successful? Obviously, you need to figure out what success looks like to you. But let's just use the term in a broad way. Just success. Everybody knows what the word success means. Do you feel like it's easy or do you feel like it's really difficult?
I think, so you first need to define what success is to each individual, right? That aspect you and I can't answer for the people listening. But I feel like success in today's day and age is easier than if we're relating it to the 90s, if we're relating it to the 50s, if we're relating it to the 1800s, like though we have so many tools at our disposal. You and I right now, you're talking on a computer. I'm talking on a phone, which essentially acts as a supercomputer in my hand. And we've got access to social media. We've got access to individuals that are thousands and thousands of miles away. You can throw a rock and hit a coaching or success seminar that is going to hopefully put you on the right path and lay out the steps that you need. You can dive in and see what sort of corruption is in, our food system. Whatever success may be, we have access to it at our fingertips. Back in the days of the settler, everybody loves the show Yellowstone and whatever 1880 or something like that. Back in the day, dude, if you didn't hunt, you didn't eat. Success back then was just making it to 45 years of age or 50 years of age or things like that. Nowadays, we have some of the longest life expectancy we've ever had. We have access to supplementation. We have access to proper foods. We have access to all of this stuff at our fingertips to then go and find and grab that success however we see fit, whatever the success actually is. In short, I think it's easier nowadays to be successful than way back in the day. Now, the asterisk to that is, government overreach and the Federal Reserve, and depending on how deep people dive into rabbit holes, that's a whole nother conversation. But in terms of just pure success, how attainable is it in today's day and age? It's very attainable for anybody that wants to apply themselves.
That's the key word too. Apply yourselves. Anybody that wants to apply themselves. There's so many options that you can utilize.
There is nothing taught in a school setting that you cannot access at your fingertips nowadays.
For free.
Now, granted, I understand licensing and if you want to go into a specialized field like, the medical field or becoming a lawyer or becoming an accountant or stuff like that, there are credentials that you need. And I get that. I'm not blind to that aspect. But just from a sheer knowledge standpoint to set you up for the success you're looking for, it's readily available. You just have to go and do the work.
Do you struggle with imposter syndrome at all?
All the time, constantly.
Tell me about it.
Happened at the Iowa Deer Classic 3 days ago.
Okay, tell me the situation and then tell me how you handled it.
The situation was just that, I now working for the company that I work for, we were talking about being in the shadows. I'm in front of the camera for a major mobile hunting brand. So that's kind of putting me a little bit further up on like a pedestal, I guess, for people watching on social media and stuff like that. So we had people, there was multiple things, but we had people that came through, that maybe follow me or follow the brand or things like that. They're putting me up on the pedestal in their mind, like that, that's AJ, that's the coffee Viking, that's the guy, and whatever
Isn't that
that
weird?
means, whatever
Isn't that
that means
weird?
to them. Well, when I think about it, it's extremely strange because I'm just me, me.
Right.
Like, I'm just AJ. I'm positive, I'm happy, I'm things like that. The way that I handle it is, and this happens frequently just because I'm notorious for it, and I'm sure you get follows all the time that you don't follow back, is we get to talking and they're like, hey, I follow you on social media. I appreciate what you're putting out there. They're like, oh, dude, no way. Like, what's your social? And I'll go back in. You can see on Instagram that it says follow back. So they even follow me, but I don't follow them. Excuse me. That's doing a disservice to them. And so I reciprocate the love. I follow back. We have a great conversation. We swap deer hunting stories. My job is to make sure, with the whole imposter syndrome thing, my job is to make sure that who you see online is who you talk to in person. And as long as I can make sure that those are the exact same person, I usually can kind of keep my imposter syndrome at bay. But it is a new experience for me to start being recognized. And make no mistake, I'm not some crazy public figure, someone with 200,000 followers or anything like that. But I'm getting to the point now where I'm being recognized out, and that imposter syndrome can creep in. The way that I keep it at bay is just making sure that I am who I portray on social media.
And it's really easy when all you are is just AJ.
Mm-hmm. AJ Kazmierczak and the Coffee Viking is the exact same individual.
Yep. Because we've all met people in person that we may follow online who are not who you thought they were.
Yep. And they're, maybe they're introverted, maybe they're off-putting when you meet them in person, maybe they're dude, there's some people that I've followed online that I've met in person before, that as I left that conversation, I went to social and unfollowed them.
I knew you were gonna say that.
And not out of hate, but just this isn't the person I thought they were.
Mm-hmm.
Adverse side of things, benefit of working with First Form and being an outdoor athlete with them, I get to go to some pretty cool events and things like that. The adverse side of things is I've met people that are the coolest, down to earth, you grab a beer with them in the smallest town in America type people, and I go to shoot them a follow. They've got 500,000 followers. They've got 1.2 million followers. They've got, there's a gentleman, his name is Gatlin Didier. He's known for his role as having a little more right-wing leaning, farming grandmother. So they do farm skits to explain things going on in the political spectrum. Very, very witty, very witty. He owns his own beef ranch company in Oklahoma. I think his grandmother has hundreds and hundreds of thousands of followers. He's got 200,000 or 300,000 followers. We met at a First Form event, hit it off immediately. Neither one of us had our family there, so we're just like, we're two bros. We're just two bros kicking it. And after day one, I go in, oh, dude, what's your social? I'll shoot you a follow. And I pull it up and my eyes get real big. I'm like, oh, he's like huge. And so those are the really cool interactions where someone has stature, someone has pull in the hunting industry or in the fitness space or things like that. And you go in and you find them and they're just a regular dude, or they're a regular girl, or, things like that. So I love the adverse effect a lot more than meeting people that aren't the same.
Do you ever find yourself scrolling the internet and getting jealous of people?
Maybe when I was younger, but once again, going back to my dad did a really good job of you can go get anything that someone has, but are you willing to put in the same amount of work that they're putting in? Prime example, okay? Lee Ellis with Seek One Productions, right? Some people view them as taboo individuals because they hunt suburban areas, whatever, okay? When Lee was chasing multiple Ohio deer, he would come and stay with me. And in younger AJ, even, now seeing the videos online and stuff like that, there may have been some like jealousy to it, but like, I'm not jealous of that because I've seen firsthand the hours and hours and hours of work that he puts in if he's going after a specific deer or something like that, so it's one of those things where I've now gotten to the point where I'm not too concerned about other individuals because of the fact that if I want what they have, I've got to put in the same amount of work. And with Lee, one, he's a great guy. He came over to my house, met my family, super, super solid individual, very solid in his faith. But dude, I'm not knocking on 500 doors to get access on 1 2-acre parcel to try to kill a 230-inch free range deer. I'm just not doing that. That's not my priority. That's not my goal, my focus, things of that nature. I'm not too concerned about comparing myself to other individuals.
That's the thing that always gets overlooked is the work. They didn't just slide into this, right? Yeah, Lee's not, and he doesn't just happen to be one of, at least in my opinion, maybe the best ever whitetail hunter.
Yeah, and there's definitely an argument for that aspect. There's some hateful individuals on the internet, and they would completely disregard all of his hard work because of the fact that he chose to chase in an urban area. So I was able to bring I loved it. That was another one of those bringing good people together. It was like 2 or 3 days after he shot his monster, crazy draw in Ohio buck. I actually had him and a guy by the name of Jake Bush, who is
I'm familiar with Jake. Familiar with Jake. Yep.
One of the
He's a stud.
Public land hunters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolute savage.
Huh?
Also a great individual. Also the exact same person that you see online as the person you see in real life. I definitely took pride in the fact that I finally got those two to sit down and do a podcast together. At the time, we did it in my unfinished coffee shop. And what was really cool, they follow each other and take tactics from each other and implement them into their own ways of hunting. And Jake said flat out on the podcast, he does not want to knock on 500 doors. And Lee said flat out on the podcast, he does not want to put in 500 miles in the preseason through public land. Both of them have found their niche. Both of them are arguably the hardest workers at their craft, but they still take different tips and tricks and tactics from each other that allows them to be successful in their own right mind. There was no jealousy in that room. There was no hate towards one another in that room, but weak-minded individuals would say that those two are not allowed to be friends or acquaintances or have a civil conversation. And so, like you said, I got no time for negativity. So we just cut those individuals out.
Keep it moving. We're doing a huge switch up here. This is why I get paid the big bucks.
I love it.
Let's go back 20 months. You're in the hospital, awesome. I'm assuming. Your son is born. Can you even remotely describe that feeling?
That feeling of having my son come into the world, and what's crazy, like for me, you always hear these individuals, it's like, oh, the moment I saw him. For me, in the moment, I'm worried about my wife's health. I was worried about the baby's health. 10 fingers, 10 toes, baby's crying. That's a good sign. I'm making sure, we're talking diet. If we're talking about the second it happened, I'm only thinking about, is mom healthy? Is baby healthy? Check the placenta, check the umbilical cord. I'm checking all that stuff. For me, it was after the chaos, everything calmed down. The baby lays on mom. They let me lay. For me, it was they do skin to skin contact with the dad and the kid. Dude, that was like, all responsibilities changed. My whole life focus changed. My whole job now is to be the superhero that this kid thinks that I am. And so that's where like life just shifted. My workouts changed. My dietary stuff changed. How I handled myself at work changed. I'm consistently trying to change and be better in the home environment as well. You know, I'm doing more dishes. I'm cleaning more. Now at 20 months old, he cleans more than both my wife and I just because he loves to sweeper. But everything, when that happened, dude, and they laid him on my chest, my job now is to be the superhero that he sees. We as parents are the kid's first superhero. I want, as my kid grows up and goes to school, and they say, what do you want to be when you grow up? I don't want him to say Batman. I don't want him to say Superman. I don't want him to say Thor or whoever it is. I want him to say, I want to be just like my dad. So that aspect, that's where everything changed, is when they laid him on my chest.
Goosebumps, dude. You did a way better job of articulating it than I anticipated, honestly.
Yeah, it's one of those things, and I didn't even anticipate to get choked up, but it's one of those things too where like I appreciate these conversations, whether they happen behind closed doors or they happen on podcasts, because our lives are so go, right? We're, this is just who we are. We're getting up at 4:30. We've got a whole day stacked. We're pouring into everybody else's cup. And I'm guilty of that's another downfall of me, is I'm guilty of not reflecting on anything. I'm looking to the next day. I'm looking to the next week. I'm looking to the next month. What do I have on the schedule? What's the plans? Where are we going? What are we doing? That you asking that question was probably only maybe the second or third time I've thought back about that instant, because I'm so focused on trying to mold him and shape him right now. So I appreciate that. I'm glad you asked that.
Yeah, man. It's something I struggle with too, big time, AJ. I'm just like you, man. I'm building. I'm going every day. I got to be off this podcast in at least 24 minutes time. I got to call at noon. Yep. I mean, and then it's back to back to back to back. I got other responsibilities that I need to handle at the house. It's really, really difficult for me to just, I just sat back in my chair right there, right? I can't do that. I struggle so hard with that, man, because it's just go, 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 go. In the process of all this going, just like you, whether you realize it and take a second, maybe it's on the podcast and look back at something that you achieved. Becoming a father is fucking unbelievably the best accomplishment you'll ever do in your life.
Yeah.
And we both know that. But to find that time to just, look what I've done. Look what we've done as a couple. We created this little man who's just gonna be a great freaking member of society, right? Like
he's loaded with,
yeah. And we don't take time to sit back. Dude, it's okay to pat yourself on the ass every now and then and be like, hey, we're doing it. We're doing it. It's okay. And it's so difficult to find that time. And I know that you struggle with it. I'm struggling so hard with it, dude. I can't shut my brain off when I walk through the house. And I talk about it a lot on here, dude, because it's like a level of accountability for me. And I think my wife...
I think it's another thing, just like how we find things that work for us from a dietary or a lifestyle standpoint. We find things that work for us from a fitness standpoint, whether that be CrossFit, whether that be bodybuilding, whether that be ultra marathons, whatever it may be. We especially as men, and I'm not discrediting women when I say that, but men are notoriously hard on themselves.
Dude, this whole thing's fucking up to you, AJ.
Yeah.
This whole thing's like, up to you.
We find ways to make shit happen elsewhere, but we don't give ourselves the grace and find ways to make time for reflection. So like for me, for instance, I don't make it a priority, but my like reflection time or my gratitude time, I go to the gym in the morning, I come home, I feed the cat, I get the coffee ready, I fill all of our water bottles, get that stuff ready to go, slam my protein shake, if my son is still asleep, I then pour myself a cup of coffee. I sit in a very specific position on the recliner. I don't turn the TV on. To do all that, I turn all the lights on. I turn all of the lights off except for one. And then I just sit there in silence. I try to be diligent about not getting on my phone, and I just kind of sip my coffee. And I might be thinking about winning a national baseball championship with my college summer team. I might be thinking about, I wonder what my old buddy Alex Stone Rock is doing. I might be thinking about, the time that I worked at Kohl's and I helped a guy buy his first suit, like that shit. My mind is not turning off, but I'm slowing down to then give myself time to think about that. And so I think that's where a lot of individuals struggle, myself included, is making that a priority and seeing, using that as a priority to see how far we've actually come.
Yeah. Because how old are you, man?
30. I'll be 31 in September.
Okay. So I'm just a little bit older than you. But what I've noticed, dude, is that every year I get older, that year seems to go by faster than the last. Is that just me?
No, not at all. Dude, I still remember 12-year-old travel baseball tournaments.
I do
catching
too.
3 games in 100-degree heat. Mm-hmm. I can still taste the Buffalo Wild Wings that we had after winning a tournament. Like I'm still in tune with all of that.
Yeah.
And back then, 50 baseball games might have been a drag. I wouldn't trade my life for anything now, but I would definitely go back and spend one more summer playing baseball. And now, we've got families, we've got other people we're taking care of. We're trying to build whatever success is in our own mind. So all of that is taking up space. It's already March of 2025. I still remember how I was treated in 2020 by family members. I'm still processing that aspect. But you have to find that balance too between go, focus, race towards your goals, find success for yourself, and don't let life get past you. Don't get to the end, be on your deathbed, and wish you did something else just because you were so focused on the go.
And I said a few minutes ago, like, this whole thing's up to you. And obviously, man, I'm sure your wife does an incredible amount, especially with your son. You guys are a team, and you can call it a team all you want, but deep down in your mind, I bet you think this whole fucking thing's on me. That's how
100%.
That's how I think.
100%. I am way harder on myself than I am on my wife, and no one will ever know that. Maybe my buddies will know that are complex thinkers as well, or things like that. But yeah, who was it? It was Chris Williamson, and it was the old like farmer guy. I don't even know what his name is.
I don't know what his name is either, but I know exactly who you're talking about.
You know what I'm about
Yep.
to say. The fact that you have no idea what's going inside the mind of an individual. You have no idea what burdens they're shouldering. You have no idea, for all you know, I could have just lost a family member an hour and a half, 2 hours before this podcast. You would never know that, but that's burdens that everybody is carrying inside them. They've all got their own battles. They've all got their own burdens. They've all got their own weight that they're shouldering. Bringing everything full circle, that's another reason why I'm so positive. I don't know what's going on inside somebody's mind. I don't know what just happened, or, I might see someone on the street. They might be walking because of the fact that they just totaled their car because some idiot ran a red light. You know what? If I tell them, hey man, I like your shirt. Hey man, your haircut looks good. Hey man, I'm notorious at events for, hey man, nice beard. That might be insignificant to some, but that might completely change their day around. So,
man, I don't know how else to end it. We just brought it
full circle.
I mean, that's what life is, man. That's exactly what life is. Anything else on your heart, man? I really appreciate this. I
appreciate you having me back on, dude. I think that this was a much needed podcast, and I hope it helps an individual that's listening.
Always does, AJ. Always does, man.
I would also recommend going back, and you said it was episode what, 44, 47?
47.
I would recommend, if you have time, go back and listen to episode 47, come back and listen to this episode. And hopefully it should be extremely apparent that both you and I have done some growing, and that's a good thing. You should be growing year after year. You should be changing yourself, molding yourself, things like that. I live and die by keep moving forward. And you should always continue to keep moving forward.
You should. I'm glad you referenced number 47. I did a little recon before, and I listened. I just kind of skipped around on it really quick, and it was just funny because we're still AJ and we're still Tyler, but we're changed in I believe a extremely positive way.
Absolutely, I think so too.
My wife and I talked about that. We did a pod together a month or so ago, and we, just kind of talked, and we are so much different together than we were when we met 6-7 years ago. I mean, two completely different people, but in the most positive way. Like, we've grown so much. Our views have looked different. Our schedules are different. The way that we talk to each other is different. Our love has grown. It's just, those are okay. You have to continue to grow. You can't get complacent. You need to continually be improving. And it's not going to be comfortable all the time, dude. And you know that. It's not supposed to be. If it's comfortable, then you're just not doing it right.
No, the real growth lies on this other side of discomfort. And that's a fact. That's a very factual statement.
It is. Awesome, man. Plug your stuff, man. I want people to follow you. You're a great follow.
Yeah. So my Instagram is where I'm most active. It's at _coffee Viking. Unfortunately, my Facebook was hacked, so I'm actually in the process of building a new one, adding in old photos and things like that. So that's fun. But once I get it active, it'll be AJ Kazmierczak. And if you can figure out how to spell my last name, I will add you as a friend on Facebook too. The main thing for me is support good people and support good companies. I own Jennings Java Coffee Roasters. I'm an athlete within First Form. And then my day job is Lone Wolf Custom Gear, which is a mobile hunting company. All of which, if you want to know any more information about, at _coffee Viking, or if you just want to chat. If something struck a chord with you during this podcast that you liked or you want to know more about, just shoot me a message. Like I said, I'm super active on it. So yeah, that's the gist.
It was a pleasure, man. Let's stay on the line. We'll small talk and I get you out.
Awesome. Sounds good, man. I'll talk to you.